Hi, everyone. I'm Peter NG, and welcome back to Catching Up, the podcast where conversations don't end when the bell rings. If you're new here, make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Catching Up Podcast for clips, updates, and behind the scenes content. Today, I'm reconnecting with William Woods. He's a trading card store owner and political organizer, fellow comrade in the DSA Orlando chapter as well, and a full grown man. This was a quote unquote, a full grown man that has never once been afraid of the water. I'm interested to hear more about that. Something about that tells me you may have had some water issues in your past. But William, it's nice to have you on. How are you doing?
Hey, great to be here. Yeah, so when I was younger, I went on a trip to visit a girlfriend up at the lakes in Michigan. Her
Mhm.
family owned a little speedboat, and we went out on one of those inner tubes. And I distinctly remember flipping in the inner tubes, but my foot got caught in the rope, and so
Oh,
they kept driving. And so I was just underwater, like like that
waterboarding
for a while.
basically. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
it was a hot minute I was under there, and then I got out and I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. I don't like the wet. The wet is bad. It is
that's
evil.
a
There are things in
fair.
there.
I think that's a fair trauma to have. I think back to when I was a kid, and I used to go tubing with friends as well, and thankfully nothing nearly as traumatic like that ever happened to me. But I remember the times that the dad would be like taking the boat and trying to whiplash us and stuff. And I'm like thinking now in my 30s, I'm like, no way would I ever do that again. You kind of have to be like young and adventurous and stupid enough to be like, sure, why not?
I also distinctly remember that like at the time I was like really into cryptids. And so like getting dragged underwater, can't see anything, this the the seaweed in the lakes and everything like that. Everything that touched me, my brain was like, I'm gonna get eaten by the Great Lakes octopus. Like
Oh my
that's it. This is
gosh.
the end of me. Like that's
I don't mind water, like pools and beaches and whatever, but anytime it's been enough water where I can't see the ground, I'm like, I'm okay. I'm good.
that's
You guys
yeah,
have
it's the
fun.
same. Like I can swim, I know how to, I'm more than able to
Yeah,
do so. I just don't like going into the ocean.
totally
Sharks be
fair.
in there. No, I
That's
want to
true.
be around that.
That's true. That's true. Well, William, for people listening at home, how do we know each other?
We met through. I was gonna make a really god awful joke about how we met through our kink Tumblr blogs, but we met
I don't
through
think that was the
Orlando
case.
DSA. Yeah, Orlando Democratic Socialists of America. I am the membership recruitment and engagement working group chair. I host all of the chapter's silly haha fun events, the board game days, the non political book clubs, the sewing event.
Hmm.
And so I tend to be a lot of people's first real interaction with DSA here.
Yeah, and William, as he was saying, was that first liaison for me to talk to somebody in the chapter, and it was great getting a chance to just chat with you and learn more about what the organization's all about, but simultaneously, just nerding out a little bit about models and things that a lot of us are into anyway. So it was a cool like way to kind of humanize it, but also learning opportunity and getting a chance to see, hey, what do you want to do more of? And that's been something I've been really engaged in myself ever since joining. So I really appreciated that. One thing that I love asking my guests early in the episode is, what's something that you got to learn today? So, William, if you want to start us off, feel free.
Yeah, so not today, but literally yesterday is when I actually found out that the developers for Magic the Gathering Arena are forming a union.
Oh,
A little bit of a plug in here if you are interested in supporting the creators and workers behind Magic the Gathering Arena. Please feel free to sign their petition. They are looking to transition into having the union with no pushback from Wizards of the Coast. Us showing our support for them is a great way for them to be able to do that and not have to do the 47 lawyers route. So
sure, 100%. Do you know how many people are trying to unionize?
I couldn't offhand tell you. No, I know
Okay.
that it's a decent portion, if not the whole, of the Magic the Gathering Arena dev team. They have quite reasonable demands, mostly
Hmm.
like no more unpaid overtime, mandatory unpaid overtime, like just generally reasonable requests. So like if you
Sure.
want to look, make sure just look up the Magic the Gathering Arena Union, and it will probably be the first thing to show up.
I want to say, was it Blizzard that also unionized kind of recently, and Activision?
There are a couple of different ones that have been trying to unionize. I know that Rockstar had one for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that one is currently in the EU or the UK. I'm not
Okay.
sure. But there are a lot of gaming industry titans currently that are beginning to start seeing unions pop up.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. I feel, both of us, we come from a lot of these backgrounds in the first place. We've enjoyed a lot of those forms of media. But I think not until you get a little older, you start to realize like how overworked so many of these sectors are. Like, I'm a huge fan of anime, you're a huge fan of anime, and this is kind of the untold secret in Japan, is like the work culture is so deadly, truly, that some of these animation studios have these people working insane hours, and you do feel a little bit of that ethical dilemma sometimes where you're like, you simultaneously love and enjoy the things that are being made, but at the same time you don't want a human being to be treated subhuman to make this stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that it's becoming more and more of a focal point to try to unionize and improve their rights together as one.
It's also one of those things where like one of the things that this isn't really talked about very often is like the impact of that kind of culture, wherein like I don't want someone to think, oh, I need to endlessly suffer in order to make other people happy.
Hmm.
That like shouldn't be the norm within the industry, and for years it has been.
Yeah.
But what about you? What did you learn today?
Ooh, yes, I almost pivoted away from that. Thank you for reminding me. I learned something interesting. I did not know this. So hippos, massive creatures, primarily live in Africa. Um, they are very deadly. I think they actually kill more people than sharks every year. Speaking of
Hmm.
sharks, um, but something I wasn't aware of. So you know how hippos typically are found in the water and they're kind of lofting around and whatever. Their bones are so dense they can't swim. So
Oh,
instead, they literally just kind of do this like almost like a trot, like a horse trot in the water. And they have this ability. They're very buoyant, despite their density. They're very buoyant, so they can surface pretty quickly. But they have this ability to fall asleep while underwater, and they will automatically, without waking up, resurface for air and go back down if they're still sleeping, like in their REM or their deep sleep cycle. Um, so I thought that was so interesting. I was like, wow. I know other creatures like dolphins and whales kind of exhibit something like that, but these are animals that are explicitly waterbound. Hippos you definitely associate with the water, but I've seen hippos on land as well. But I never thought, oh, such a creature that is so often violent or hunting in the water is unable to swim. So the more you know.
originally when you said I learned something about hippos, I thought you were going to start talking about the American hippo farms.
American hippo farms. I might
I
be
can't remember
unaware.
who. There was someone who was 100% insane, and there was a period of time in a different timeline that instead of cows, the primary form of meat that we would be farming in the U.S. would have been hippos.
Huh.
However, they are incredibly unruly animals and not particularly well versed to domestication, and so that flopped really quickly.
I see. So someone was trying to like a scheme. I don't know if you want to call it get rich quick scheme, but like basically saying this will be the new cow for for the United States.
I can't remember the specifics, and I don't want to
Okay,
spread misinformation on
I'm
that.
very curious. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
look into that.
yeah, I think I'm gonna look into it afterwards too, and then I'm gonna send it to you if you can find
Okay.
it. Just like link it somewhere. But yeah,
Okay. Wow. Oh, more you know. While we're on this topic, I guess of like modern day, I'm really interested in how you found yourself becoming a store owner, especially focused on like trading cards and like what brought you to that. I'm interested to learn.
okay. So circa 2020. um, COVID hits. My
Yep.
partner moves down from Pennsylvania. They're going to be going to school for Full Sail for creative writing. We move down to Orlando. We get to Orlando and suddenly realize that we cannot afford Orlando. So I bust open my collection of Pokemon cards. I had a base set Charizard that looked like it had been put through a blender, and someone wanted to buy that for $90. I was like, "Are you sure?" Like, I showed them pictures and the conditions and everything, and they're like, "Yeah, please. Like, I don't care with the condition. I just want it for my set." And I'm like, "All right."
Yeah.
Sent it to him. Didn't expect it, but he sent pictures of like him and his kid, like with the card, and like he's building the collection for his kid. And like I realized I loved doing this, so I started selling cards and everything. And then COVID shutdown hit, and then I fell down the Warhammer miniature painting rabbit hole hard. Like for some people, it was learning how to make bread. For me, it was painting miniatures.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the painting aspect of it. I'm not a big fan of the actual game because I don't like painting the same guy 400 times and then spending 4
Sure.
hours trying to memorize two armies rules plus whatever update Games Workshop releases this week, all that stuff. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
I focused entirely on the hobby aspect of it. Got the Games Workshop license to sell Warhammer models, and then through a sheer stroke of coincidence, not a local, a startup podcast called Adeptus Ridiculous started. We found them when they were relatively small. I reached out and was like, "Hey, would you guys like a sponsorship? I'll send you whatever minis you want, and if you could give a shout out for the store." They did, and our website crashed.
Wow.
It got so much traffic that the Squarespace assumed that we were under a DDoS. um,
That's
and
good.
then they
Okay.
did that again.
Wow.
And so we got our initial burst from a combination of sheer luck and just me being conversational with hosts of a podcast. It went really well, and the community very quickly discovered that like I have a no nonsense policy. So like
Mm.
if you are a Nazi in a Warhammer space, you will get banned from my store.
Yeah.
If you are a scalper that comes in to buy things from me and resell them, and I find out, you will get banned from my store. We sell under MSRP for everything because I remember wanting to get back into the Pokemon cards, and then the Paul brothers decided to get back into
Right.
Pokemon and
Right.
broke the market. Like, I refuse to do that to people. And so we built a niche community, very queer, very loving, very friendly, and it's just been that ever since.
Cool. No, that's awesome that, I mean, you've been able to turn a passion into some sort of, obviously like a business model, but also like an ethical business model where you're not trying to rip people off. You're also trying to stick to yourself and what you believe in, and also recognizing that, hey, this is also meant to be a community that is very, very welcoming. I have a friend, his brother actually works for the Warhammer organization, and he's told me some incredible stories of meeting people who are really into Warhammer, be it the books, be it the games, be it the Henry Cavill project that he's working on. And these are franchises that are rich, rich, rich in history and lore. I do have a question. The model painting, I'm always so interested in that because when I watch videos of people doing this, it's such a fine touch. I always feel like I don't have the dexterity to do this. Do you feel like in an alternate timeline you could have been like a top class surgeon with like your fine hand skills that you have?
That's an excellent question. So for the listeners at home, I'm going to be showing something on camera right now. This is a Black Bolt miniature that I
Ooh,
painted.
very
Looks
cool.
pretty cool, really detailed. Um, the thing that is the secret to learning miniature painting is that it is just a coloring book in 3D.
Mm.
That's it. My hands shake like crazy while I paint, and so I take both of my hands, pin them up to my chest, and paint from this so that way they don't shake.
Oh, I see.
I've never seen a surgeon do do a little velociraptor claw while he's doing surgery. If there
Fair.
is one, call me. I may have a career change. But
Okay. So it's really a matter of positioning yourself in a way that you get much more finesse out of it.
yeah, there's a lot of different
Okay.
methods that people use. I've seen the like rubber bands, like training chopsticks. Like
Hmm.
there's one of those for wrists. So that way it helps with the shakes. Some people do the close up on the chest. Some people like rest their elbows on stuff to stabilize them. It just depends on the person.
Cool. 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 Have you ever considered? I mean, obviously, it's not for everyone, but have you ever considered like streaming while working on your miniatures?
I have done that before. So, little fun fact is that prior to me opening the trading card store, I did YouTube and Twitch for about
Oh,
8
okay.
years. At our absolute height, we went from I think 80 subscribers to 80,000
Wow.
within a week, and it was because like we were the only people doing Pokemon Go content because I was the only person that had like a recorder that could plug into my phone that could plug into my capture card.
I see. I see.
Um, but we did that for a while, and that was a lot of fun. And I still have all the camera equipment and everything here
Yeah.
to be able to do those streams. I did sponsored unboxings for a while. Those of you who play trading card games will know them as like box breaks.
Hmm.
Basically, like you would get a discount on a box if I could open it up on stream. We get the AdSense revenue from that to make up the difference, and you get your box at the cheaper price. Plus, like if you don't want the bulk and you just want the good cards from it, I'll just mail you that,
Oh,
and then
cool.
I can deal with the crap that people
Yeah.
don't like.
Yeah.
A lot of my start comes from that like video editing, video essay, gameplay channel on YouTube for a while.
Oh,
And
nice.
so like I have done live streams where I paint miniatures before. I've done, card games and things like that as well. I did have a podcast for a short period of time called Cardboard Gamers, where we did card and board games and just chatted shit.
Nice.
Um, so yeah.
I think I primarily ask only because something I've recognized. You and I grew up around the same time. You graduated high school from what I look at your form in 2011. I graduated high school in 2009, so we're not too far off. And
Whatever you say, Unc.
yeah, exactly. As all of my kids love to say, we can remember like what the early days of internet were like and what internet obviously is today. A totally different animal. There are so many different niches and different subsects internet culture and things that people are interested in that you know even the premise like that's what popped in my head. I was like even the premise of streaming someone painting a miniature that seems like something would people probably might be into. I'm not big into like mukbang, for example, but I know that that's something that for some reason a lot of people love to watch. So it's kind of like because you have all this tools or all this accessibility, you can essentially watch anything at this point in day and age, which good and bad, I guess. But yeah, those are something that I was curious about. One last question before we get into more of a reflection on our past.
Hmm.
I was always curious about this. Your username that you go by is collectible squids. What's the story behind this?
Sure. So this actually goes back to the YouTube days. When my friend and I were trying to come up with a YouTube channel name, we wanted something that was both an acronym as well as instantly recognizable. We
Mm.
wanted a logo that was something that people could see and just immediately make a connection with. So we designed Squeegee, the rainbow squid, who is named after my old streaming partner's daughter because when
Oh,
she was little, the only noise she could make sounded like a squeegee on a car window. Um, and she's like 9 now, but
wow!
like
Time flies.
that was the original concept behind it, and we went through a few different names, and what we eventually landed on was Electric Squid Entertainment.
Hmm.
And collectible squids was originally just meant to be like my own personal channel spin-off from the electric squid brand, so that way I could just have an excuse to open Pokemon cards and Magic
Sure.
cards on
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah.
And then it took on a life of its own where it just kind of made sense, and it's so incredibly unique that whenever I apply for like distributors or whatever, like they always call me and go like, "What is the purpose of this name? Where did you come from? And
It
why is
stands
your
out.
store name like why is your store name not like the Dragon's Den or every
Right,
other
right.
trading card store in the area? You know, the Gamer Escape or whatever." Like,
Sure. No, I mean that's really something that stood out to me. Is like it does stand out immediately, and you do have a very recognizable image. So uh, that's cool. It's a good idea to identify almost like a branding purpose or like what do we want to be known for. So now that we get a chance to move beyond where we're currently and what our lives are, or what your life more specifically is kind of looking like today, let's go back to how things were in high school. So you graduated in 2011. Did you grow up in Orlando?
no, so my dad was Navy, and we moved around a lot. So every 3 years, I had to make new friends. I had to like fit in with whatever cultural zeitgeist existed within the area, pick up the dialect, and all of that stuff. So when I was 14, I was living in Norfolk, Virginia, and
Okay.
my dad retired from the Navy on my 14th birthday, and then we moved to Cairo, Georgia. It
Cairo.
is pronounced Cairo, but it is spelled like the city in Egypt.
Oh, like Cairo?
So,
Yeah, okay. I think I've
yeah,
heard that one before. Yeah.
it is directly above Tallahassee, Florida. We have a couple of things of renown about the city in that we have won ESPN's most unique mascot award like every year because we are the syrup makers. Our
Syrup
mascot is a yep,
makers? Oh.
mascot is a dancing syrup pitcher. Um, it was
Wow.
awful. Honest to God, it was awful. I hated Cairo so much.
Mm,
It's, going from a large city my whole life, military life, all that stuff, to like having all of your expenses paid, having secure housing, water, internet, all of this stuff sorted for you. And then going from upper middle class to bottom of the lowest class with
hmm.
no job prospects because the military doesn't leave you with any. My dad was without work for 2 years.
Oh,
And
man.
so we spent that time like basically we built a house and I worked on the construction crew there, and I was in deep south Bible Belt, Georgia, where the only things to do were hang out at Walmart, go to church, or do drugs. And so I
That's
chose
it.
World of
Yeah.
Warcraft.
Hey,
um,
I mean, that's probably a much healthier alternative in the long
it
term.
was not. I promise you.
I've had my fair share of MMO addictions, so I know how it can get. Wow. Okay. So Cairo, Georgia, is this closer to Florida than Valdosta?
Yeah, slightly. So,
Okay.
Valdosta Valdosta and Tallahassee are roughly the same distance away from like my house in Georgia.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, these small towns. I mean, I'm assuming everyone knew each other, like high school, especially.
Oh yeah, everyone knew each other. Everyone was deeply religious. Everyone was deeply racist. The first time I ever heard a slur said out loud outside of Django Unchained was in Georgia.
Wow,
Like,
that's pretty crazy. Okay. Thinking back to then, so you would have been. So this is where you guys ended up settling for at least a while, and I'm assuming this is also where you graduated high school.
correct.
Okay.
So in a way, my high school, my senior year, they decided to change the way scheduling works. So you know how most schools will have you like rotate through on a 7 or 8 class schedule and then all of
Hmm.
that. Mine was 4 classes for one half of the year and 4 classes for the other half of the year, right?
Interesting, like
So
blocks.
yeah, yeah, box
Okay.
scheduling. And
Okay. Yeah.
so my senior year, they decided to change it to the other schedule. They knew that it was going to completely screw over the entire senior class, and it did. And so the senior year, I graduated with I want to say like 28 other people total. I was one of the ones that got hit by the schedule change and the problems that it caused. And for us, like, because we were basically shit out of luck, they said, hey, like, you have 3 options. You can either pray to the gods on Mount Olympus that you magically pass somehow,
Hmm.
you can drop out and get your GED, or you can join this online program where, like, you don't even have to physically go into school and you can just do all your work from home. And that sounds awesome. And all you have to do is come in and take tests in person. I'm like, I'll do that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Like, so I did that. I graduated, I want to say 3 months early
Okay.
because of that, and I just got to do nothing but play games, which was like, my high school was weird. My high school
Yeah.
experience was so weird.
It sounds like a very, non-traditional path for sure. It's really sucky that they kind of forced you into a position that was not your call. I'm glad that at the end of the day, you're able to make lemons out of lemonade basically and say, well, I'm at home. I get to just play some more video games while I catch up on schoolwork or whatever. Yeah, that's an unfortunate situation that they alternated things so late
The
into your
online school
year.
was so weird too. The
Mhm.
courses, like I remember the courses because the reason why I was able to graduate so early was because at the time the courses were, if you can answer 3 questions consecutively without getting one wrong, you pass that course, the whole entire course.
Okay.
So, at any point you can sit down and just take the test that is associated with it. And so I would skim the information and then pop over to the little quiz, take the
Hmm.
practice quiz, get 5 in a row right, do the 2 questions, be done with it. And so I finished all of my work within easily a month and a half. Like,
Wow. I don't pretend to be a master at pedagogy and like and education and all that stuff, but I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to prove learning.
absolutely not. It was definitely not. No, no, no. I would not put this in front of a child and be like, this is knowledge. Like,
To be fair, fast forward a decade and we're going through similar stuff with COVID, and there was absolutely, at least in my district, I can't speak to other states and things, but in my district there was just no plan. And so we were kind of building the road as we were driving, and it was chaos. I think my class at least, we were able to manage as much as we could, but I talked to a lot of kids that had to learn from home for either that remainder of the school year or the following full school year. And they said most of them were like, yeah, I was sleeping most of the time. I never bothered to actually pay attention. I wouldn't even join calls. Like we had like a Zoom equivalent that we would join. So it's unfortunate because I do think there are ways to use these tools to make the most out of education for certain kids. But if you don't build it up efficiently, you're just kind of saying, hey, best of luck. Hope it works out, you know?
yeah. I mean, like, I lucked out mostly because, like, the school that I was at, most of the textbooks were from the 70s, like, they didn't have any updated information or updated technology. There was nothing particularly interesting. Most of the
Mm.
teachers were like Ben Stein on Zyrtec. Like, it's just really sleepy, slow talkers.
Yeah, yeah,
And getting onto the online program was very much just like, oh, I'm able to actually do the work at my pace that I want to.
sure.
And, it was very, very nice in that. And like, I lucked out for that, but like, I don't think there should be any form of standard now.
Yeah, yeah, that's understandable. Well, outside of that very strange senior year, is there a moment in high school that stands out to you the most when you think back to that time?
Yeah, so my there was a few things. I remember the day that my band director came up to me. He goes, "Hey, you're William, right?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You play the guitar?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Here's a trumpet. You start on Thursday." And I'm like, "Sir, these things don't correlate." I don't know if my chorus teacher told him, or if like other friends told him, but I actually have perfect pitch, and so I play 11 instruments now,
Wow.
but I'm able to pick up music like that, and so like I very very quickly learned how to play trumpet basically overnight. Went straight into doing the concerts and the shows and everything like that, and it was a lot of fun. um, I our school was very strange in that like a lot of schools will spend a bunch of money on their sports team. Our school spent the most amount of money on its band, um,
I
which
mean,
was like, yeah,
that's a nice change of pace, truly. I feel like that's unheard of in most areas, but that's kind of convenient because there are a lot of schools that really do try to fund that in the collegiate level and pursue that.
Yeah, ours was very, very proud of its band. Like, we had built that up for ages, and it has been a staple of Cairo forever. To the point where, like, I remember being a kid and choosing to go see the school band on my birthday, like when we
Wow.
visited my grandparents in the town. So like they have always been phenomenal. I don't know if they're still great. Don't quote me
Sure.
on that.
Demographically speaking, is Cairo more of a black community?
No, it's actually pretty 50-50. However,
Okay.
like the city being, a deep south city, it is very, very segregated.
Sure.
Um, so like the high school is very evenly split.
I primarily ask because if oh go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say when it comes to at least like specifically black versus Caucasian,
Hmm.
the other races and ethnicities that exist are like very, very few and far between.
Gotcha.
It's that it's just Georgia, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I primarily ask because for a school and a city that prides itself so much in music and band, I know that historically black colleges, especially the ones in Florida, are notorious for their excellent bands and marching bands in general. So I didn't know if that might have been a pipeline or some sort of connection there, where a lot of kids from that area that really had that talent were trying to go to these major universities just to be on marching band.
I mean, that very much could be the place. I'm not entirely certain. I know the other thing was that every year, I've always been kind of a bit of a social butterfly, much to my own detriment.
Hmm.
But I like making friends with people that I find interesting. And when I was in Georgia, the people that I found interesting were pet store owners.
Oh,
And so I would go to all of the pet stores within like 45 minutes and just hang out with their reptiles because like I, I I wanted to be a paleontologist, and then I decided against that, and then I wanted to be a herpetologist and learn about lizards and all that. But like I don't want to have to deal with organic chemistry, so I'm good.
yeah, fair,
Uh,
fair.
but during high school, what I would do was I convinced the school to have a reptile day, where once a year all of the local stores would bring in all of their reptiles that people would otherwise not have access to be able to see. So the specialty breeders would come in with Nile monitors and snakes and emerald boas and leopard geckos, like obviously the traditional pets, and then more rare things, specialty chameleons, pygmy chameleons, and they would come in and I would just give presentations on each of the species and let people interact with them. And at the time, I had a Nile monitor. He was leash trained, and so I would just take him on walks around the school on those days. So
How big are we talking? Is this reptile?
like 6 feet.
6 feet. Wow.
Yeah, Nile
Okay.
monitors are basically miniature Komodos.
Oh, how cool. I mean, is that my next question was going to be? Is that what's your favorite reptile? But would you say that's your favorite
Yep,
reptile?
Nile monitor,
Okay.
definitely my favorite because they can be trained like house cats. You can teach them to use a
Mm,
litter box. They eat boiled eggs. They are relatively easy to domesticate. Like I think it's something like at least from the ones that I owned, 8 out of 10 are going to be domesticatable.
wow.
It's yeah,
I never knew. I mean, I'm learning another thing today for the first time. I'm sure they also mold like the other reptiles do with their skin.
molt. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They
Molt.
shed
That's
their
what it is.
skin,
Okay.
but the Nile monitors are really deceptive creatures because when you get them as babies, and so they're like maybe 4 or 5 inches, like the lizards you see outside. Within a year, they are about 3 feet.
Holy wow. That's cool. I mean, I know some people would probably be petrified of that, but I think destigmatizing reptiles and showing that they're not all scary or intimidating is a good thing, and showing people that hey, these
That's very
animals
much
show a
what I
lot of
tried
love.
to do with it was like I personally have a fear of spiders,
Mhm.
and so like I try to interact with spiders as much as possible because like my fear of spiders isn't that I don't know enough about them, it's that I know too much. And so like
Yeah,
I want to kind of demystify that fear by interacting with them. Think that exposure to these animals is a really good way to, like, in a very safe, calm environment where I'm not going to be like, oh, and then throw a lizard at
sure,
you, you know, like,
sure. That's a good way to do it. I think it's a good mindset to have. Let's go ahead and transition to our next signature segment. So this is another question I love asking my guests as well. But if you had the opportunity to sit in front of yourself at 16, 17 years of age,
I'd
what do you
punch him in
think?
the face.
Oh, punch! I was gonna say, what would you tell yourself? But you think it would be a full on physical altercation?
Probably, I hate that guy. So
Oh
like
man.
that's the thing about being a socialist, right? Is like you every day want to think that the person that you were before was an idiot and he knows nothing, right?
Mhm.
But like for me, I was an angsty teen. I was an angsty
Oh,
little shit, and I made my parents' life miserable. I was, city life and all this stuff. Everything was great. And then we moved to Georgia and I knew no one and everyone sounded like Dolly Parton. And like, I was miserable. There was nothing there for me. And while I understand that like this is what my parents wanted for themselves after retirement, like I was dragged along for that.
sure.
And, I made them miserable for it. I was very combative as a person and just constantly angry and like thank God for therapy because like that helped me get my shit together and like
Truly.
realize like hey maybe you shouldn't hurt people.
Yeah.
But that was very much my teenage years. Is like if I could go back and tell my 16-year-old self anything, it's more along the lines of like stop pretending like anger is the only thing that you are.
Mm.
You have to find something beyond that in order to be who you're meant to be. Like, figure out what it is that you want to be and then just work toward that. Every day is
Yeah.
going to be a fight, but you have to make the conscious decision to be that person.
100%. I think those are very wise words, and obviously the whole thing of wisdom is we learn as we grow, and
Yeah,
as we get
I'd give
older.
him a hug, but I'd absolutely deck him. Like,
Is it the punch first, then the hug, or the hug then the
who's to
punch?
say?
Mm. Okay, I think the order of operations there does make a difference, but your story I think is so interesting because understandably, I think anyone in that position would be probably a little frustrated with having to be dragged along because obviously as a kid you have no control in where you live and all these factors. But like you said, now in your adult life you've been able to reflect and look back and say, okay, did not have to be as hard about it. It's normal to be a little pissed. It's normal to be like, oh, this sucks. This isn't my normal life. I have to adapt to this whole new thing. But I get it. I think back to my parents and how I was with my parents, and I'm like, man, there were a lot of times that I made my parents' life more difficult than I needed to.
That's the thing, right? Is like I could have just been like, "Hey, I'm feeling really stressed out about this and I'm sad. Can you take me to a trading card store?"
Yeah.
Like can this just be my thing? Instead, I chose to just bottle that up inside and not deal with it, and it came out as whatever the that awful person was.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's obviously like I don't know if the listeners can tell by the everything about what I've been describing about who I am, but I am very autistic, and like I didn't know that as a kid. I didn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with
Mhm.
that. That wasn't something I learned until my adult life, which like you'd figure the Pokemon cards and Warhammer models would have been enough, but like
I think it's also stigma. I think there's also a lot of stigma around in certain cultures, especially where speaking as someone from a Latin background, and you shared with me that you're also of Latino heritage as well. It's so often believed that any of these things you just kind of pull yourself up in the bootstraps, and it's like if you work hard enough, it won't be a big deal. And it's like we're just making
yeah,
life
that
harder.
was very much a big part of it. Is like my dad is white and my stepmom that I lived with in Georgia, who for all intents and purposes is my mom. She
Yeah.
raised me since I was 6 months, but she is blanco, right? Like she is like neon glow in the dark mayonnaise white and
Yeah.
very deep south religious, and so it made the conversations about depression very difficult. My therapist at the time would talk to them about it and they wouldn't get it. It made the conversations about anxiety and me having a panic attack difficult. I remember getting not expelled, suspended from school for a week because I had a panic attack before a test. Uh, because the school had never experienced panic attacks before, and they thought I was going to shoot the school up.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Like they forced me to get clearance from a therapist to say that I'm not going to do that in order to
Yeah.
come back to school. Like
Yeah.
that's how backwater this place was.
Yeah.
My mom didn't understand what autism is or how the spectrum works, and like it took my dad a little bit less time to get understood with it, mostly because like he's a little bit more open minded.
Hmm.
But like it's just like parents do the best that they can with what they have, and sometimes the best they can isn't good enough, but they still try. And like
100%.
you
And
that's
that's
the
the
person that
thing.
taught me how to use a spoon. I'm still gonna love them.
Oh, for sure. Right. Right. I mean, there's a lot of that is baked into us as far as parental love and familial love. But I teach anatomy, physiology, and I tell my students so often that a lot of what I teach them, yes, we have known a lot or have known about for quite some time, but so much about how we interact with each other and how we're wired and coded, I guess, we're still discovering, we're still learning. So many of these things are on a spectrum, from neurodivergency to sexuality to gender, all sorts of things that uh, fluctuate. And
Yeah, and I mean, like you can get IBS, right? Like irritable bowel syndrome. You can also get irritable brain syndrome. It's an
mhm,
organ just like anything else.
yeah,
Like there are failures that happen within the system, and that is it sucks, but it's
yeah,
normal. It's very
yeah,
normal.
right, right, right.
We are electricity and meat taped together, and it is a miracle we work.
Truly, truly, it's pretty impressive when you really start to think of it on the smallest scale to the larger scale. It's like, wow, this is borderline miraculous that this even functions the way it does. But now that we're getting towards the tail end here of the episode, um, I always like to look ahead a little bit. Something I love asking my guests as well is, how do you evaluate growth today? Because when we were kids, I think growth was so often determined by binary sense of, are you passing a class with an A or B or C or D or whatever? Are you arriving to class on time? Now that we're adults and school isn't part of our day to day life anymore, how do you determine what growth is for you?
That was always one of the interesting things, is because like even as a kid, like so around 14 or so, and still to this day, like I have this mentality that like every day that you are not working towards something, if you are not actively working towards something, if you do not functionally know who you are, if you do not know what you would like to be, then you as a person are dead. You
Mm,
have no interest, you have no personality, no thoughts, you refuse to continue moving, and because of that you have become stagnant.
yeah.
And so like even as a kid I thought that. But I guess the main difference between that then and now was that originally it was done out of like angst and anger. And now I would say the primary difference is that like I do this in part for myself, but I also do this for other people. Like a lot of the things that I do within the store, any money that I make past being able to cover my bills goes back into the community.
Mm,
Sure, I can sit here and invest in getting, X amount of product or expanding the business, but like that doesn't help someone pay their bills. That doesn't put food on the table. Like everything that is mine is and should always be yours. If I have access to something, you should as well.
yeah.
And now the person that I am, I very much just want to be the change that I want to see in the world, as that obnoxious saying goes. But like I think that we can do better. I think that we can be better. And so I want to be the better that we can be.
Here, here. I like that. I mean, that's truly, I think, a tenet of socialism in general, but just being a good person. and trying to help each other out and lift all of us up together. So, William, I want to really thank you so much for being here with me and catching up with me today. Before I finish up, is there anything you want to share? Maybe if you want to share the website of your store, or where you sell your merchandise from.
Yeah, collectiblesquids.com for any of your Warhammer needs. But also, we are partnered with Almighty Boba Cafe next to UCF here in Orlando, Florida. Well, I guess it'd be Oviedo technically. If you are interested in learning how to play Magic, if you're interested in Pokemon or Warhammer stuff, Kill Team, the Star Wars or Marvel miniature games, like, come in, show up, pull up. I'm happy to schedule something with you. All of my personal board games are in store for anyone to borrow at any time. That's all I got. I'm fried. I'm cooked.
No, you're good. You're good. I appreciate it, and I can personally attest that William's been one of the most nice and welcoming people I've had the opportunity to speak with and work with. And I think something that I think is a great trait you share or have is you're willing to try stuff. You're willing to put yourself out there and be a part of the community in whatever way you can. And I wish more people were as open minded as you when it comes down to this. So, for all of you listening at home, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with somebody who could use a reminder that growth isn't always linear. Follow us on Instagram at the Catching Up Podcast for clips every Friday and new episodes every Wednesday. And thank you for listening to Catching Up, where conversations continue beyond the classroom. I'll see you next time.